What is going on, everybody? My name is General Mittens and welcome back to another episode of my Assassin's Creed Unity news, rumours and discussions video series. Now, before I start, this video is actually going to be quite different in the way that I'm going to approach it, because this is more an opinion-based topic than an actual fact-based topic. So, basically, it's going to be quite, I don't know, maybe a bit rough for some viewers, for some people who have certain views on the subject, but basically I'm going to be talking about the whole female protagonist muck-up with Ubisoft and how they dealt with that, and how the people that actually, you know, want to play this game saw the whole thing unfold. So I'm going to be explaining that, but again, before I start, I'm just going to explain my views on the whole female equal rights topic. Because I think that's quite an important part of this topic, is to know how biased I am towards what side, or, you know, what I actually believe in, that kind of thing. So basically, my views on equality is that I'm all for it. I'm all for equality, but I literally mean equality. None of this handicapped bullshit that you get with some jobs, you know, where males do, say, for example, in the army, you're going for a rifleman position, so that's like your main shit that you see in movies. Say a male has to do 20 push-ups, 45 sit-ups, and like a 7.5 on the beep test, but then a female comes in and only has to do 15 push-ups or 30 sit-ups and a 6.2 on the beep test. That's ridiculous, because we're doing the exact same job, you know, and if something happens and a female needs to carry someone but can't because they only had to do a handicapped amount of, you know, push-ups, that kind of thing, then that sort of ruins the whole base of equality. So that's my view on it, is that everyone is equal, everyone should be treated equally. If someone's a dickhead, I'm going to call them a dickhead, you know? So it doesn't matter what gender they are, what race, colour, you know, sexuality, that kind of thing. Everyone is equal and should be treated that way. So basically, everyone should be given a fair go. If they're being a dickhead, I'm going to call them out for it. So that's basically my views on the whole topic. But without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to read out what actually happened with the whole fiasco, that kind of thing, just so you guys get a bit of background information if you haven't heard of this, and then I'm going to explain my views on the topics. So basically, after E3, a few people around the internet, or not a few people, a lot of people around the internet, started saying, well, where's the female protagonist? Because in the co-op, you're playing as four, you know, white dudes. You know, there's four characters and they're all white dudes. There's a reason for that, which I'm going to actually explain now. It's because it's sort of like Watch Dogs, where you're always playing as Arno. You're always playing as the main character. So it's sort of a step further than Watch Dogs, because you don't see just random NPCs running around as players. You actually get to see their version of Arno. So you get to see what they're wearing, all their weapons, you know, all their skills, that kind of thing. But the only thing different is they're going to have some generic face. So it's going to swap over the face so it looks like a different character. But you're always playing as Arno, so the co-op and the single player are sort of molded together, so it's a continuous story, which I personally like for narrative reasons, and I think it's pretty cool that we actually get to see what their characters look like. But it was under fire because there was no female character in the co-op, and this is like, if that reason wasn't there with the whole you're always playing as Arno, I can see why people would get annoyed. But I think this comes from people that either don't know what the whole co-op campaigns, how it works and all that, with the whole you're always playing as Arno, or they don't care and they just want it to be a separate campaign, much like Far Cry 3 had their separate co-op campaign. A lot of people started, you know, asking questions like, why not? You know, it's 2014, we should have this by now. You know, we've had a female black assassin, we had a black assassin, and now we're going back to the whole white dude, testosterone, Murica shit, you know? So a lot of people got annoyed about that, and Ubisoft responded in the worst way I could possibly imagine. It makes sense, but, you know, just looking at it the first time, you're going to think these guys are retarded. So you really, the only way you're going to understand their response is by going into detail, which I'm going to do in a bit, but I'll read it to you. Their reason behind it was, it's too much work. Basically, that's what they said. So basically they said it's double the animations, it's double the voices, all that stuff, and double the visual assets. So that's the creative director. And especially because we have customizable assassins, it was really a lot of extra production work. And a lot of people thought that was complete and utter shit. And I completely agree with those viewpoints. You know, it is 2014. We shouldn't be having this whole, oh, it's just too much work. But the thing is that it actually kind of is. too much work. Not in the sense that it's gonna cost a lot, but also in the sense that I've actually got to make sure it's right. And I'll get onto that in a little bit. But basically, going through these articles here, which I have linked in the description, we've got a few people commenting, and I'm just going to read out some of their comments. Basically, it was, one of them is sort of towards the side of this whole argument is shit, and he basically said, how would replacing a male character model with a female character model change the point of view? The dialogue would remain the same as with the story. They need to drastically rewrite the story for a female point of view in a given historical setting, as it's usually extremely different from a male point of view. You're basically asking for a totally different game. So I think there's a few spelling errors or word errors in there, but basically they're saying that because of the time period and the point of view and how people treat you, it's basically going to be like rewriting the entire game. Because if you're going to be a female, you're going to be sort of looked at funny. You know, it's still that time period where females weren't as equal as males in terms of, you know, social justice, that kind of thing. So you're going to get funny looks, you're not going to get respected as much. Sort of like how Mount and Blade Warband did the whole character customization thing, where if you choose a female, it's going to be a lot harder, because you're not going to be able to gain trust as much. People are going to think you're weak, you're going to get robbed, you're going to get attacked, that kind of thing. People are going to try and hurt you a lot more, because you're not a male. And that is exactly sort of, well, not to the extent of that, but it's going to happen in this game. So basically, you'd have to, if you don't want to get treated like shit, you'd be disguising yourself as a male, which would completely just cancel out the entire argument altogether of being a female. So it's sort of, it has to make sense. But there is a few people in here as well that are talking about that this whole too much work is, you know, it's not on for this kind of day and age. And I completely agree with them that the excuse that Ubisoft gave was complete and utter shit. Let's face it, it was terrible. They could have just said narrative reasons, but no, they said, oh, it's too much work, which is, it is a reason in itself, but it doesn't really, you know, bide well with the general public. Now, as they said that it's basically up to about 8,000 animations they'd have to redo, and not to mention all the voices and all that kind of stuff. But basically, former Assassin's Creed 3 animation director Jonathan Cooper, now working at Naughty Dog, said that the extra female animation should only take a day or two's work. He also said that I think what you just have to do is just replace a handful of animations, so that the real key ones that make the female look like a female, you know, the walking, the running, the climbing, the attacks, that kind of thing. Everything else, like, you know, waving to characters or you know, crouching, that kind of thing, it doesn't really matter, because you're not really going to see a difference. However, he also said that doing so would require a sacrifice in quality. That is such a key phrase that I completely agree with. This is my entire point of view, is that it would reduce the quality of not just the character, but the game itself, because they're focusing on getting the female right, and not having the same people that are, you know, complaining that there's no female in this game start complaining that the female wasn't given justice, and that they're still sexist for hating females by not making the character as good as it could have been. But it's also that the game wouldn't function as well. Certain things wouldn't work as smoothly as they would if they just, you know, didn't pay attention to it. So Ubisoft were full into this whole merging the co-op campaign and the single player together. So the logical option that they had was to cut the female avatar and stick with Anno, because they wanted it to be Anno throughout the entire game. Doesn't matter what you're playing, you're always Anno. So it was sort of a creative decision that they had to make. It looks like it was quite tough, but they decided to go with the whole smoothness, so it's seamless joining, seamless this, so you don't just randomly change character when you join a game. They also tried to back themselves up by saying, with regard to diversity in our playable assassins, we featured Aveline, Connor, Adderwall and Altair in Assassin's Creed games, and we continue to look at showcasing diverse characters. They also said that we look forward to introducing you to some of these strong female characters in Assassin's Creed Unity. This is a killer statement, because I've heard a lot of people complain about how, you know, females were actually quite a big deal in the French Revolution, and there was one lady, I can't remember her name, but she's the biggest assassin. She was sort of like the most famous assassin in the time. She assassinated, I think it was one of the real high up people. I'll have her name on screen now, but a lot of people were like, why can't we play as her? Well, you don't have to play as her, but she's probably in the story. You know, she's probably one of your either your mentors or your you know, one of your teammates that you work with, and that's going to be awesome because hopefully, if they you know, Ubisoft do pull it off well, they won't sexualize her, so they won't make it that, you know, Arno falls in love with her or something. You know, that it's teamwork and it's sort of just assassins working with assassins. And that's something that Ubisoft, you know, how they focus on their characters, it's not male or female, it's assassin or Templar. You know, that they don't care what gender it is, it's just got to make sense from a narrative point of view. Now, I'm going to read an article from a game called Deep Down, which is, basically, it was at the PS4 press conference in 2013. It was the one where you're playing as a knight and you're getting sort of like a dragon trying to burn you. But basically, they said that they don't have any female protagonists because of narrative reasons. It does state here that a lot of developers actually, you know, they know that women make up basically half of the whole demographic, and developers have been realizing that if they can cater to more of them, they will make more sales. However, it does indeed cost more money to create both male and female playable characters. It's not as simple as a reskin. You need to animate the skeleton and musculature differently, hire more voice actors, that kind of thing. However, if you can bring in those extra customers, it's worth the extra effort, which is completely, you know, that is completely correct. It does cost a lot more nowadays. We are in the next generation of gaming right now. Everything is a lot smoother, a lot clearer. You can tell things apart now. You know, a lot of animations are getting a lot smoother. And if you try to just reskin a female character with male animations, and if you just try to reskin a male character with like a female skin, people are going to notice. They're going to see this, you know, this female running around like this huge bulky white dude, barreling through people and completely decapitating everyone with a little machete. You know, people are going to start to pick up on that, and they're going to be like, okay, that was just really cheap. They just literally reskinned it. We're already starting to see that with games like Call of Duty and Battlefield, where we see that they've just reskinned everything. You know, because it's a lot clearer nowadays. Ubisoft only really just got off the hook with AC3 Liberation, because they literally used all of Connor's animations, and Connor he was a bulky dude. Like, he was huge. You could see that in his running. He really put in a lot of effort into sprinting, and that was, you know, towards the end of last gen, but it was still last gen. You know, so he was really putting in a lot of effort to running and jumping, and you felt like he was a heavy dude. And you put that on Aveline, who's, you know, quite an average build for a female, and she's just barreling through everyone, completely just destroying everyone, breaking kneecaps, just, you know, all that. And I'm not saying that she couldn't do that, of course, but it was a little bit unrealistic how she'd literally just throw people aside when she doesn't weigh as much. It's just physics. I'm not saying that females can't do it. I'm just saying that physically it would take a lot of effort to do it if you're not as huge, right? Even reskinning Ezio onto, you know, Connor's body, him doing that'd be sort of like, oh, that's kind of weird. You know, he doesn't look that strong. So it's a lot more noticeable nowadays with sort of the size of characters, what they can do, you know, that kind of thing. So you really need to make sure that you nail female characters. You got to make sure that they're physically correct. They are fine as a character. That is the main thing, is that they've got to make sense in a narrative point of view. You know, you can't have a female who's just basically shoehorned in to make the people happy, because people are going to start complaining that they're shoehorned in. You know, you got to make sure that you get it right, because with this next generation of consoles and these next generations of games, you're going to be able to pick it out a lot easier. So basically, in a nutshell, my views on this subject is that it needs to make sense from a narrative point of view, and Ubisoft didn't feel that it made sense from a narrative point of view. I know that their, you know, excuses were shit and they didn't really help them in any way, but it needs to make sense. That's the thing. You can't just shoehorn in a female character in a narrative game now. You know, RPGs, that's fine, because you basically make your own story. That's why Skyrim and Dead Island and those kind of games, you can play as females. You know, more so in Skyrim, where you can actually create your own female. But, you know, you make your own story, whereas in this, it's a story of the character that you're playing as. It's tailored to him. You can't just reskin it as a female and expect the story to make sense, because it won't, because you'll start getting, you know, people will start, I don't know, treating you like a male, that, you know, especially in the time period, you'll be treated a lot differently if you're a female. It wouldn't make sense. They'd have to rewrite the entire story, and not just the story, they'd have to, you know, redo all the animations, because it's got to look good. You've got to make sure that female characters look female. You know, what's the point of having a female character if they're literally just a texture pack? That wouldn't do the whole argument justice. I agree that games need to have a lot more diversity. I'm not just saying females, I mean black characters, Asian characters, Hispanic characters. You know, in a few years, chuck in homosexual characters, transgender characters. I'm saying that in a few years because there's still a lot of people out there that don't support the whole argument of, you know, pro-homosexuality, pro-transgender, that kind of thing. And even though it's probably the right thing to do to release a game with a homosexual or transgender main character, they're a business. They're looking to make money. You know, yes, they care about their fans and stuff, but the main thing at the end of the day is that bottom line. So it wouldn't make sense right now to do it, but that's just for homosexual characters and all. Anyway, I'm going off topic, but basically it needs to make sense. You can't just throw in a female character and expect it to be all good and dandy. I can't, you know, sort of stress that enough, is that if they did listen to everyone talking now and they threw in a female character, the same people would complain that the character's not as good. And to that I say, what do you expect? They've already come out with a gameplay demo that's pretty much past alpha. Like, it's almost beta. It's working, it looks great. Hopefully that wasn't a vertical slice, but still, anyway. They've already come out with that. They've already written down the story. They've already basically completed the story, completed the write-ups, that kind of thing. All the voice acting is probably done by now. You know, it was probably done a year ago. So, it would just delay the game if they actually wanted to make it good, or they just throw in a character as fast as they could, get in some cheap voice actor, and then boom, done. There you go, have a female character, you know? The next game, sure. You know, if we pressure them for the next game, or the next, you know, the second game down the line, because they're already making the next game because of this whole yearly release shit, but, you know, maybe there's probably a good chance of that happening. And you know what, they're probably listening to this and going, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. We need a female character. Let's write a really good female character and try and get them in the earliest game that we possibly can. Hopefully that's what they're doing. Yeah, because I think it's too late now to change the game, so just complaining and yelling at them isn't going to make a difference. They're already nearly done. You know, it's nearly July, and the game comes out late October. So that's August, September, October. That's 3 months away. Well, you know, 3.5. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. Now, I've just talked on this point for about 20 minutes, and I'm just going to say something that just completely shits on everything I've just said. Or not everything that I've just said, but this whole topic in general. There is more pressing issues, not just in the gaming industry, but in the world, than not being able to play as a fucking female in a video game. Seriously, it's a bunch of polygons. And we're complaining about this. There is shit going on in the world that sucks. Yeah, there's still women getting abused daily. Shouldn't we be caring about this before we take a step to include a female character in a video game? Because that means that we're not sexist. That's another thing. Ubisoft were getting called sexist. Like, not just sexist, I mean fucking sexist. Like, the word fucking. Yeah? They were getting, you know, accused of being sexist because they didn't think that a female character would fit the story. Yes, females were prevalent in the French Revolution, but that's not the point. I don't want to have to live in a world where we have to justify choosing a male character. Because it's going to be like a sine wave. It's going to go male popularity down when the female popularity is up. And then there's going to be so many female games that people are going to be like, oh, where's the males? It's going to drop again. I don't want that to happen. I want it to be just a flat line. You know, choose, pick and choose. Make sure it makes sense. So, too long didn't read. Well, basically a recap of what I've just said. Ubisoft's excuse was shit, but the reasoning behind it was completely legit. Yep, you can't force in a female character, because if you do that, you're going to get the same people who are complaining about not having a female character complain about the female character being shit. So it's got to make sense from a narrative point of view. RPGs, that's fine, but from a game that's very story centric, it's got to make sense. So there we go. Those are my whole opinions on the whole subject. It has been quite a different video from all my other previous videos, but what did you guys think? I'd definitely like to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Keep it PG. Don't call people sexist for thinking that they don't want to play as a female in this game, that kind of thing. That's just their views. Doesn't mean they're a sexist. Okay, I swear to God, if I hear one person say sexist, I'm going to kick you out of the comments and out of YouTube, and you're not going to get the internet back for an entire 6 days. I swear. I've played Watch Dogs, man. I know what I'm doing. Anyway, so yeah, definitely leave a comment down below on your whole opinions on the subject. Next episode is going to be on something I completely forgot. I said it in last episode, but then the second episode from this episode, wow, that's confusing, but basically not next episode, but the episode after, if no news comes out, I'll be doing a whole rumours video on the modern day protagonist, so definitely watch out for that in the coming weeks. But once again, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to not miss any of these videos and any of my other videos. I'm also thinking of kickstarting my Assassin's Creed series playthrough again, because these videos are getting ridiculous amounts of views. Like they're skyrocketing for my channel. I mean, it's only like 200, 300 views a video, but that's huge. Like, I'm used to getting about 50 views, and to get 300 views on these videos is crazy. So I'm going to try and keep making these videos, see how my fan base grows, see if you guys actually want to watch the whole series now, or if you want to wait, that kind of thing. But I'll make a decision in the coming weeks, and I'll let you guys know on that. I've actually been pretty excited to play all the Assassin's Creeds. But anyway, once again, thank you very much for watching this video. My name is General Mittens, and I'll see you in the next episode.